We went out for 1 o'clock hockey game.
Oh my
I
God.
got canceled.
It's
I drove
canceled.
to Boston yesterday.
Oh,
And they
I
didn't
saw
say.
that on Facebook. Why would they cancel? And I said that.
Cheers.
Yeah.
So we didn't go to the Carly Soccer Fest, the last day it was
Because you would think. like,
town budget
sport
hearing.
that, like,
Moved it.
Yeah. 5 o'clock in the morning.
Today, yesterday.
Here on the
I had to pay for the tickets. So I don't know about it.
red.
When I saw what it cost, I said, oh my, you're a fool for heaven.
I'm sorry. That I got.
So we drove.
It's so
Yeah.
fun.
So took George's truck, and we drove to Boston. That's for the 2 o'clock
Okay,
show,
let's
well,
stick with
at
that.
10. I 1 o'clock, not at 10. And I thought, at noon after the shot. No, I was right, yesterday.
That's a good.
But there was more cars than I would have
They
expected.
did.
I can't believe they didn't cancel.
It was the last day of the show.
For the committees.
And they said, you
I
can,
can
you
speak for myself.
can,
I will do-
you can move to another performance if you like. Like, what's the last day?
Well-
You give us our money back?
Yeah, exactly. I had tickets for, yesterday for something with the, Portland Symphony Orchestra, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
canceled it.
Did
and
they cancel it?
They canceled
Oh,
it.
so this
and
They
I
didn't
said-
cancel
Before
Charlie
we
the
went
truck
back?
back. We drove to
Ah.
Boston
Well, I didn't
yesterday.
pay for it. I did it with a group of
Where?
other people, so I didn't, I don't. I think we could get
Bring
different
that there.
performances
Bring
for
it.
that.
So where are people sending this
So-
to anyway?
The kids went to the
All right,
Disney
time
on
is-
Ice.
all right, it is
Today.
5:03. We will
I don't see that.
open the public hearing on the recreation, proposed recreation fund.
There are no paper, you're not gonna find, I can speak to it if you want. I-
And I'm gonna call on the town administrator to explain the proposal.
So you can, you would have seen on the town warrant that there were two potential ideas with regard to how to move forward for a fund for the recreation committee. The intent to be to roll over unused funds from one year to the next. There's still discussion about those funds and how they're calculated, but there are two different funds to be considered. The expendable trust, which requires an article on the warrant every year with a specific amount of money to be deposited, and the select boards would be listed as agents. The other is the revolving fund, which has a whole other set of rules about it,
Mhm.
which does not require an article on the warrant every year, necessarily, though you could do it that way. But once the department is fully seated in that fund, it could operate entirely out of that fund without providing a budget to the governing body, which is a great thing for someday because it allows for growth, for the fees and monies received to be turned back into the program for growth of programming and staff and so forth. I spoke with someone from the Department of Revenue about the choices in funds. There's a lot to consider. The revolving fund offers a lot of autonomy and flexibility, but there are management issues for the first few years because until it has enough money to operate on its own, you've got it sort of in the operating budget and sort of in the revolving fund, and that doesn't really work well. And so the recommendation of the woman from the Department of Revenue is to put money in an expendable trust for a number of years until such time as the town chooses to put enough money in a revolving fund so that it is sure to be able to operate entirely within the revolving fund.
Gotcha. Okay. So what we're here for this evening though is option A.
So
That's what was given to the budget committee, right?
this whole warrant as such was given to the budget
Both
committee.
options?
So they received both options, yes, because the board had not yet decided,
Okay.
given the committee's intent, which way to move forward, because there wasn't really time to look into the options. And since then, we've heard from the committee that they would prefer the revolving fund. However, because we are operating in a an election cycle that is a month forward of where we were last year. When this warrant was drafted and we went to the public hearing, there was no dollar amount besides the $1 in one fund.
Right.
But there was no allocation of 2018 funds put into either of these articles,
Right.
which means that 2018 money now is not a discussion point. We've passed that time.
Right.
So, that being said, it is possible to put one of these articles on the warrant. We could do the same in 2020 and fund it and be in the same net position. So while you could put a fund on the warrant with no appropriations or with a $1 appropriation, you may be able to encumber funds of 2019 with the revolving fund. However, you can also do that by way of the 2020 warrant. So there is no difference or additional benefit in doing it this year rather than 2020.
Okay.
Is there not, does either option allow for donations to be made into it without being funded?
The revolving fund is not supposed to have donations. And yet we have to, that was one of the original intents, was
Right.
to be able to hold on to scholarship money, or if there was a large donation that you could put it away. So it may be ultimately that the best scenario is either an expendable trust for a number of years and then a revolving fund, or else an expendable trust for a number of years and then perhaps one of each fund, so that you can keep both going. But we still have to honor the intent of donations. And we're still caught in this funny position where money isn't supposed to be carried over year after year, and we're working with the auditor to do that. It's not very clean. But revolving fund, there's still a lot to learn, but my understanding is revolving fund money is specifically supposed to not include donations.
Thoughts, Denise? Before we try to open or questions rather before we
No.
open, Miles, any other questions before that?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll open up for the public portion then. Are there comments or questions? Concerns?
Well, we spoke,
I
as,
just need
I'm
to-
Kelly Anderson,
And just say what street you're
Chair, 3 Watson Lane, Rollinsford. As a committee, we spoke at our meeting, and I was away, so when Celia did all this work and threw all this together, I was playing catch up. So I played catch up this week, and I think we, just listening to how Caroline said it again, that as a committee, we want to table it. That is our
Okay.
our feeling as a committee, that
So
it
nothing
doesn't,
for this year then?
yes, it doesn't make any sense for us, as she just said, to push it forward on the ballot this year if
Okay.
there's no money to put in it. So, I spoke with the other chair, and,
You're all in agreement?
Well, it was voted on at the last rec meeting to table it until
Okay,
September.
but the,
Work on
what
it.
I just meant, the rec committee was.
yes.
Yes.
The majority of the committee was
Okay.
in agreement.
I think there's one no.
Okay. Celia, do you have any thoughts? or-
There
There's
is,
one no.
there are a lot of
I'm
funds.
sorry, you finished, Kelly? I don't mean to cut you off.
Yes, are you finished?
And the two funds are, and that's, it's really interesting, because I guess that was a piece that I missed, that, and if we have an expendable trust, that still has to go through the town budget, correct?
Yes.
So.
Because you don't
You have to go,
enough.
you have to put it on the warrant that you're gonna take, the select board is agents.
Yeah,
So it's offsetting revenue, so it's in
Right.
the revenue portion of the budget that it's gonna offset whatever your operating, budget is.
so I think going forward, I think we would like to, we need to be profitable in order to attach ourselves to anything, so we're being optimistic that that's gonna happen, so, I think more information is definitely,
Right. Well,
needs
you're
to be
certainly
gathered.
moving towards that direction. And
Yes.
all of you have done a wonderful job in trying to meet that mark, so.
maybe this summer.
Celia?
Celia Leopold, Washington Street. I've done a lot of legwork on this, and I have found out that there are probably half a dozen different funding options for rec. And at the request of the committee, I am gathering all that information. And hopefully down the line, the committee can sit down with Caroline and go over it, and then any questions and concerns that come up from the information gathered and presented can go through Caroline to the DAR, or Department of Revenue Administration, and be answered, and then we'd be more prepared in the future. I still think the revenue revolving fund is a good idea, but it's been pointed out to me that there are some consequences and loopholes that I have not thought about that should be considered before moving forward.
Any other public comment? I'll just say thank you, Celia, for doing all the research that you did. I'm sure that your committee appreciates it as well. And if there isn't any other public comment, I'm going to close that portion. Are any questions or concerns, comments from the select board?
No, I also thank you as well, that it's brought an interesting issue to light, and I do think we need to figure out our best option before we put it on any kind of warrant.
Denise, do you want to add anything?
No.
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you all very much. We're going to open the select, we're with postage going to do this, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you both. All right, I'm gonna open the January 21st, I don't think what day it was, Rollinsford Select Board meeting at 10. First order of business, the approval of minutes from January 14th, the actual meeting and the two public hearings. You folks have a chance to review them? I'm sorry, any edits, changes, omissions?
Mine have changed, yep.
Okay, you got yours done already? Okay. So by consensus, we will adopt the regular meeting of the 14th and the two public hearings from the 14th. Any community input at this point? We haven't done anything yet, so, but you're more than welcome to say anything you want. All right, so we're gonna get into the town administration piece of the evening. We have the town meeting to go over, we have the warrant to go over. And you should see it in front of you, what's gonna be included and what's not. What I'd like to do is go through article by article. And this is our opportunity to ask questions, decide whether or not we want to include it on the warrant or not. The first one, we don't have a choice, it's going on the ballot, is to bring in your ballots. But we should be looking to make sure we have all the right offices. We have a select board member for 3 years. That would be the position that you were in at the moment, Miles. You were filling Suzanne's term, and she was up this year anyways. One town treasurer, one chief of the fire department, 3 members of the budget committee for 3 years. So we're all up to date with people that may have resigned or moved or passed on, or?
I did this with Kate,
Okay,
but, we're reviewing this just in case anybody has any different thoughts about
Okay.
this. And then also, we're adding at the bottom of the list, the tree warden, the fence viewer, surveyor of wood and lumber, and then there's a 4th, which is just parks and recreation. Those are the 4 things that would
right,
be appointed at town meeting. I'm
Right.
gonna go make a copy for Salme.
Do they have to be from town meeting, or can they just be in the select board's meeting?
no, they're done by.
No, because they were done by town meeting, you can't just switch, so it still has to be town meeting. So that's why you will see later in the warrant, if you all want, you can choose to discontinue those positions, because it's gonna cause a lot of write-in.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
So we have, in the town report, elected at town meeting.
Yeah, I know, but
Those are-
town meeting doesn't exist anymore.
All right, so it was replaced by the official ballot, so it has to go on that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
We have elections here at the town hall, or we haven't even done a
That's the
meeting?
Legion.
It says town hall. Just,
Good catch.
I thought it was in Legion too.
Yeah, I saw somewhere that it said Legion,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, it's definitely open from 7 to 7, that much I know.
Yeah.
Rollinsford American Legion Hall. Just cross out town. I had an American Legion. We'll wait for Caroline to come back. So we have found one, but mistake. The election, you're hereby notified that the polls will be open from 7 to 7 at the
Oh, thank you.
American Legion.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and to bring in your ballot for the town officers and the other articles. All right, so we have 3 members of the budget committee, but we're confirming just to make sure. 1 trustee of the trust funds, 1 library trustee for 3 years, 1 trustee of the cemetery trust for 3 years, and then the other necessary town offices. So it would be the surveyor of woods and lumber, 2
Yes.
positions,
Oh, there are 2,
Yeah.
okay. 2,
fence viewer,
yeah,
tree warden, those are single
Yeah.
positions, and then parks and recreation for 2 positions.
yes.
I do see at the end, there's a article to see if we're going to do away with those positions.
That was the request of the town clerk.
Now, is
So-
Parks and Recreation different than the Recreation Committee?
It is,
Okay.
and it has been, but my question is, Parks and Recreation is not a position itself, like, is it a member, is it a, like,
Well, they're both on the committee.
but do you see what I mean? Like,
I
it's
do.
not a, they're not a warden, they're not a,
The way it was
You know.
explained to me by Ed, I don't know how many, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, whatever it was, 5 years ago, was that these were the folks that were supposed to be overseeing the physical plan, like the
Yes.
the physical parks
yes,
and recreation
Yes.
facilities.
Oh.
yes. But are we calling them members of a committee, or are we calling them? Or
They don't
two-
have to be.
They don't have to be members of that committee.
Well, but I'm not talking about the other committee, I'm just saying we need a
Chuck.
noun.
Oh, I understand.
In general.
You know, like what are they, what is their
The Parks and
title? Member,
Parks and Recreation Commission?
commissioner?
I don't know,
Like,
are they, so we have a park, did we, back up. In the list of all the many things that we may or may not have passed over the years, the DRAs are well aware of, or they opened up the right page. Never gonna happen again.
Yeah,
It used to be
Recreation
really
Commission,
long
one of
years
those things?
ago.
Do we know?
so I will,
Is there a recreation commission? They can raise money then.
so maybe they're commissioners,
Well,
I don't know, you know,
no, it may not,
like,
it may, no, maybe not. I mean, we did officially establish a conservation commission in the 60s. So, but I'm looking to see if a recreation commission, because we've seen it in the statutes, but,
right. So I'll
It's not
ask
listed.
DRA and see if they have,
well,
you know,
this is
we
the
need a
list of
title.
all the things that DRA is aware of that we have done.
Well, right, but whether or not it's a commission or what the group is called, we still need to call these people
You're right.
some kind of title.
You're right. So I'm comfortable leaving it to you to find out from the DRA. I mean, I don't think people are gonna be beating down the doors to get on it, but.
It seems like other towns have recreation commission.
Mhm. But it doesn't mean we actually officially did it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we didn't, then they have no authority under statute to exist. if we
These
didn't.
roles have been appointed and filled year after year.
At town meeting.
And what is
Right.
it?
They don't do anything. Well,
Are the
since
names listed
recently.
there with, like, does anyone?
Kelly Anderson
Oh,
just
okay.
left, and Kathy Roselli. But they're both on the
Rec-
rec committee.
I'm not sure that Kathy Roselli is.
Well,
Is she?
She
Oh, is
was
she?
before,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she still is, and Kelly Anderson obviously is the co-chair and has been very active, so, you know.
That's Frank's wife,
Hmm?
right? That's Frank's wife, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll figure out exactly what we're calling, if it's Parks and
Yes, I will
Recreation Commissioner.
find a title for them.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next is, Article 2 is a zoning ordinance as proposed, recommended by the planning board. Zoning, we don't have, they're included in the warrant, so we don't have a, say whether or not we're gonna include it in the warrant, right? Can't
Typically,
imagine.
you're not supposed to
Right,
because they
well, why
want
would
it
we?
there, but,
Okay, all right.
so note the language though.
But do
because
we have
that's
to recommend or not recommend?
It says at the end it's recommended by the planning board. I think it's helpful if it is, but honestly, I'm not sure that it's appropriate or not appropriate. I don't recall.
What about
I think it's-
former zoning ordinance?
I'm gonna look right now.
We don't know what
So
paragraphs A, B, and C are, how we know what we're agreeing to it.
So that's a really good question. You can't put all this stuff.
I
So you paraphrase, and then the law says we make them available to the public for viewing a week prior to voting day. So we'll send out an announcement to say that there are these these zoning amendments to vote on, and the housing standards will do the same. And note for people that they will be available at the town office to view, or hopefully we could have a link to something so that they can read the full proposed text.
We didn't have any last year, so let's look at the year before.
I have the year.
Right here, I've got that.
Do you have it? Oh, right, because it's on there.
Just opened it to the right spot again.
You should
My night.
buy a lottery ticket.
Yes, certainly, sure. All right. Purchase of zoning ordinance. It just says this amendment is proposed by the Rollinsford Planning Board. It doesn't
Okay.
say. Other ones will say, like, so Article 5 is the purchase of the fire engine, recommended by select
Okay.
board, recommended by budget committee.
All right, so I'll
So
get
that
that,
one.
I'll get rid of that for all of them, and then I can get rid of recommended by the planning board? Because
No.
it's proposed by the planning board, or do you still wanna have
What
recommended by
does
the
it say?
planning board?
I don't want back.
keep that on there.
Yeah.
Well, except that, I didn't know if you felt as though that was redundant.
Hold on, let's see what we did previously. Try to be consistent. The amendment is proposed by the Rollinsford Planning Board.
But is it recommended also at the end of that?
No, it just
No,
says.
it is just recommended, okay, so,
This amendment is proposed by the Rollinsford Planning Board. it says.
okay,
So it
I
should
will
say-
make that change.
Okay, so that's the same for number 2, and then number 4 is also a zoning ordinance. So all 3 of those are
Yes.
proposed and recommended by the Rollinsford Planning Board.
You want me to say that in the text that it is proposed and recommended? I mean, they are proposed and recommended, but as far as the text goes,
The amendment is proposed by the Rollinsford Planning Board.
yes, that's all, okay.
All right. Number 5, Housing Standards Ordinance Amendment. Are you in favor of the amendment to the Housing Standards Ordinance as proposed by the Select Board as follows? To include definitions of nuisance activity, nuisance event, and habitual nuisance property, further to add under Article 5, which you have in front of you, which is the blue sheet.
You actually don't, that's,
Add the following under Article 5, habitual.
no, you do, but the
Oh,
others don't.
here. I don't need it. I will show it, you can pass that to Miles. We made one change,
I got it.
which we haven't adopted yet, have we?
No, you should, well,
Or-
you've approved getting it to this point, and you cannot otherwise further approve it, except, you're recommending that it goes on the warrant, so it's for the,
But based on the public hearing, we can't make that
oh,
modification?
well,
Because that was the
you're right,
modification of the
you
public
absolutely
hearing.
can, yes, you absolutely
Right.
can.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not
so there was
changing
one
the-
change.
You
To
absolutely
strike-
can.
To strike the word rental,
Mhm.
Mr. Crozier suggested we just do it to single family, but I think we should keep it to any property. Whether
Yeah.
it's a single family or a rental,
That's-
what type of
that's-
rental property, if it's a.
A 6-unit or
if it
something.
Wanted a nuisance, excuse me, section put in there to deal with, obviously, habitual offenders, so. If it's a rental property, then you can go after the landlord. If it's owner occupied, then you go after the owner, right? So we should
Right.
just change it to any property instead of any rental property.
Yeah.
Yes.
So but any, so it will now read, habitual nuisance property. Any property that meets the criteria set out in habitual nuisance property designation shall be designated as a habitual nuisance property.
Yep.
And it goes to the next section, shows what the description is for it to be designated a nuisance property. So, and the police chief was comfortable with that change, it was already indicated last week, so. All right, so, do we have a motion to make that change? And then we'll put it on the warrant.
I'll make a motion that we change it to, paragraph to say, any property that meets the criteria.
Second that.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So Caroline, you've made that change.
Yes.
All right, so back to the article. Further to add under Article 5, the criteria for habitual nuisance property designation and removal thereof, the noticing requirements for such properties and penalty applications. further to add under Article 7, the schedule of civil forfeiture fines, majority vote required. What is the pleasure of the board? Shall we recommend or not recommend?
Well, it is proposed by you all in that text. So is that, are you gonna separately?
Are we recommending to put it on the
Oh, I see,
warrant part?
okay.
Yes, do we need a motion to that effect?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move to include Article 5 on the warrant article.
No, second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so Article 5 will be included on the warrant. Number 6 is by petition, so it will be included. The question is whether or not we will recommend or not recommend it. This is the petition warrant article to rescind the residence tax. So if we do delete the requirement to pay a residence tax, we will be making up the lost revenue in direct taxation. So what are all your feelings?
Well, this has been a thorn in the side of residents for years. I think it's time for it to go. I am curious what the revenue shortfall, what sort of hole it puts in the revenue.
$12,000 to $14,000, something like that.
But it's my feeling we should recommend it.
Is it that high? Or
I
is
thought
it
it
6
was
or 7?
8. I don't know why I thought 8. It could be
The
12.
other ones,
What's that?
the penalty, the resident.
Oh, the penalties were, it was confusing the two,
The
okay.
inventory.
The inventory penalties were confusing the two of them, okay. What's your feelings, Denise?
Yeah, I mean, it's a thorn. Loss of revenue causes taxes to go up, so I don't like to lose revenue. But it is a thorn in people's sides, so I get it. And we're one of the only 2 in the state that does it now, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2 states, two towns left in the state that have these, and we're one
Yeah,
of them.
we're one of them.
Who's the other one, do we remember? I don't remember who
I
it was.
can't
but-
remember.
Is there any offset savings in the, I'm sure, in the card that we mail out? This has to represent some cost.
So the card is mailed out with mail-in renewal notices for motor vehicles, so not necessarily there. It's just human resource savings, time in creating the list, ordering the cards, alphabetizing them, putting labels on them, making sure people have paid them,
Okay.
those things, and separate deposits.
All right, any other discussion? All right, so if a yes vote will mean we will recommend, a no vote will mean we do not. All those in favor? Aye.
So do we have to
No.
say recommended by the Board of Selectmen if it's by petition? I don't know why we have to say that.
Well, we have in the past for a petition warrant article. We don't have to, but we have in the past. I mean, if the majority of the board doesn't want to take a position on it, that's okay as well. But we have, just because one board did it in the past, that doesn't mean we have to continue to make it. But,
I mean, I view it as more of a personal recommendation, but as a select board member, I would recommend it.
Are you looking at me?
I didn't know if you wanted to say something.
Oh,
That's
no.
fine. I want to
No,
give you
I-
opportunity to speak, sorry. I was looking at you.
You're looking at me.
I just think, as soon as we say we're recommending it, it's gonna be our fault that we have less revenue, not the people who signed the petition. That's my opinion. So,
All right, so we will include our recommendation as to article number 6. So if you're in favor, say aye. If you're opposed to the a positive vote will mean you are in favor of recommending. We're saying yes, we recommend it. If you're saying no, that means you're not in favor of recommending it. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
aye.
Okay, so select board recommends. Number 7, the operating budget. So the bottom line that the budget committee recommended the other night was, not the other night, last week was it? Or
There's
week
an
before last?
error of $766. So where we thought there was a decrease to the bottom line of 1806, it's really $2,500 and something.
Okay.
So it's a difference of 766. I know why that is now. It came to my attention because of Suzanne entering all of the information into the portal. And to answer your question, Denise, about correcting the portal, it's not a matter of correcting the portal. That line, or let me make sure I understand you correctly. Totals per department are put into the portal. The select board recommended budget, and the budget committee recommended budget, and the default budget is all by total per these categories that we have here. So they are, she and I are still working on making sure we're on the same page about that. Right now, I think that we are. And this total on this new spreadsheet reflects her bottom line total in all three of those areas. So I think we're good, but we have a lot of checking to do.
So it can be changed, because it sounded like with the email exchange between
Well-
Suzanne and you, that you couldn't change it. You had to call DRA.
Well, so the reason I want to call DRA is to be clear that we had a public hearing about a different bottom line. You know, we were specific about numbers in the budget, and we were specific about where the cuts were recommended to be coming from. But that number 1806 was out there, so, which was not accurate. So I'm not sure that, there's nothing to be done to correct the past, and all we can do is move forward. I just want to talk to them about the implications of that.
But there was something that got brought up at the public hearing, that there was a $3,000 error in the fire salary.
Correct.
So
They
that
have,
can't be fixed?
oh, it absolutely can be
Oh,
fixed
okay.
because it was brought to
Out to-
light and everybody
and-
knew
yeah.
and,
Okay.
right. So that's fine.
Okay.
But we were not aware of that error at that time, which is just part of what we're going through this season. So the budget committee is meeting Wednesday night.
Right.
They have the authority to continue to modify this
Right.
budget,
Right.
and they will be notified of what we now know.
The chair has been notified.
And the chair's been notified, so,
Check the emails.
you know-
We'll let the
Well, that was
committee
my concern, that the stuff was being loaded into the portal before this finalized budget.
that it will continue to, she can't finish until they meet, you're right.
And
Like,
so she can go back and change if something got changed.
yes,
Yeah.
because
That
you
was my
can't,
concern.
thank
Oh,
you,
definitely.
It
yes.
sounded like
Yes.
it wasn't going to be able to be changed.
No,
so-
you have
Okay.
to.
We
that's-
we will review it.
Yes, you will review it
Ultimately,
and sign it
We're
before
the
it's
ones that
officially.
are on the hook for it. We're just asked her to physically enter the information
Yeah.
for us during the day, that's all.
I
But-
just
but to be
kinda
clear-
read
Oh,
her
yeah, yeah,
statement.
no.
Sounded
Yes.
like we
No,
couldn't,
no.
so why are we
Well,
putting it in yet?
But also, to be clear, the DRA requires that you enter every piece of information throughout
Yeah.
the process as it changes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, it's always kind of a work in progress until we're done with that process and you press the button and you'll sign it.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'm good then.
You
I
have to
just
start
wanted to make sure
early.
we could fix an error that was done by mistake, or we could adjust what we know what we should have and it didn't get adjusted.
Everything is
Yeah.
correctable because
Okay.
there are a myriad of ways in which we report finances in different ways over a period of time.
Mhm.
So, it all gets caught in one way or another,
Okay.
and so that's fine.
Okay. So this number, this 24.
Is correct.
$2,402.76 is correct, minus the 76.
No, this is correct. This
This-
number is correct, it's just different than what the bottom line was for the public hearing. So this number reflects what we believed the will of the budget committee to be, rather than that bottom line.
Right.
So,
This reflects their previous reductions,
correct,
plus the mistake we found.
correct. So again, you're not signing this warrant until next week, because this number could further change
Right.
Wednesday night,
Right.
so, yes.
Okay, so with number 7 then, we're waiting to hear what the final number is
Yes.
from the budget committee on Wednesday.
So,
And then we'll have to vote on it next Monday night.
correct.
That'll be the last piece of the warrant to finalize, just so everyone's on the same page. But, okay, so we'll talk about,
We'll have to do it Monday night,
we'll have to do it Monday night for sure.
yeah.
And so this 2.4 million that they're recommending, it'll go down slightly, but is how much different from what we had recommended originally?
$2,500 and change, it's,
All right,
it's 1806 plus 766.
okay, so if the number hasn't changed significantly,
2572, down
No.
from your proposed budget.
okay. We'll wait to see what the final number is, of course, but if the budget committee stands on that number, I can't imagine I would vote not to agree with them. I think we could probably make the wheels of municipal government turn with a $2,500 difference, but, and thank them for their service, but we'll wait until next Monday to see what the final number is. Okay. Unless there's an objection. Okay, number 8, purchase of the plow truck. Cost $165,000 coming out of, the full amount coming out of the capital reserve fund. Are we ready to place this on the warrant? Or do we, is there any objection to placing it on the warrant?
No.
No, okay, so all those in favor of Article 8, say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed, all right. So we're recommending it, and it goes on the warrant. All right, number 9, the police cruiser. This is the 3-year lease agreement that the police chief wanted. All right, in the amount of 34, so we've run, I'll read it, but we've run this by Bob and Caroline.
Yes.
This is how we wanted it.
Yes, he did this Friday afternoon right
Okay.
before the public hearing, so I want to bring,
And so before I started reading, I want to make sure that it was actually, you were going to say, oh, yes, but we.
no,
Okay.
this was from him. I
Okay.
just want to bring to your attention that $1,000 is from taxation, which is new for cruisers.
Okay,
So he's thinking at this point, he probably intends to do another such lease agreement next year. I just want to plant a seed in your collective
Okay.
brains that we change the allocation in the CIP,
okay.
accordingly.
All right, so to see if the town will authorize the select board to enter in the 3-year lease agreement in the amount of $34,000 for the purpose of leasing a police cruiser, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $13,000 for the first year. Okay, so it's 34 total, and the first year's payment will be 13.
Correct.
Okay, and we're gonna take that 13,000 out of the capital reserve
No.
fund. And then
No.
it says further to raise and appropriate an additional 13 to equip the vehicle.
Yes. So it's only it's half lease payment and it's half equipment.
Okay,
And it's that equipment cost that's putting him 1,000 over.
Gotcha.
And then we're taking 25 from CIP.
okay, so it's a total of 26, we're taking 25 out of the CIP.
Correct.
And he's gonna find 1,000 somewhere in his budget to make
Well-
a difference, or we're gonna find $1,000 somewhere in the budget.
No, according to the article, this warrant article costs $26,000. Or you can bring it back down to 25 and he can find $1,000 in his operating budget. But as this is written now,
Yeah,
this warrant article costs $26,000.
I know, that's what I said.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he's finding $1,000 in his,
Yeah, it costs 26, we're taking 25 out of the CIP, so he's gonna have to find we're gonna have to find $1,000 somewhere else in the operating budget that really costs 26. But we're only withdrawing 25 from the CIP.
right, but the other 1,000 is coming directly from taxation through this article, not through the operating budget.
But, that's, right, okay,
I'm sorry, okay.
okay, yeah. that's
But we
fine.
don't say that. It doesn't
It
say that there.
could, I could add that to be explicit. $1,000.
Part of the voter guide, isn't that what I saw?
Yes, in the voter guide it is more explicit.
All right,
So I don't understand just one thing. So the cost is 34,000, but we only are paying 26. and we
We're
can-
paying actually just 13 for a lease payment in the first year. It's a
Okay.
3-year lease.
So it's 13 a year for 3 years.
Yes.
So next year, the same warrant goes on asking for 13,000 for another payment?
No, because first time lease, and I need to check into this, and I will check into this, but my understanding is, that because it's written here as a 3-year lease agreement, that we are
This is authorizing 3 years of.
correct.
Okay.
I believe so.
That might need a
Yeah, I will call DRA about that,
finer point, but
for sure.
I'm gonna make sure it's explained in the voter's guide very clearly.
Absolutely.
All right. So you're gonna clarify that with DRA, but are folks comfortable voting on number 9 this evening, or do you wanna wait till next Monday?
I think we can vote on it. I'm comfortable.
I just think you have to either up it to take 26 out of capital improvement or write 1,000 for taxation.
I can write
It's
it
not
that the
clear
$1,000
where
is
the
coming
extra 1,000's coming from.
We're gonna make sure it's clear when it's
Yeah,
$1,000.
I will add that.
Okay, that's my only.
Okay. So with that caveat, to explain the $1,000 coming from tax, add the line with $1,000 coming from direct taxation. Are folks comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay, so all those in favor of recommending and placing Article 9 on the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're recommending that one. All right, number 10 is the police message board. To see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $23,800 to purchase a message board for the police department to authorize the select board to apply for and accept state federal grants anticipated for this purpose. All right.
So the total price for the board is 23,800.
Correct.
Okay.
And he's anticipating
11.9.
half of it coming from grant, and the other half comes from,
But as it's written,
You're authorizing 23,800.
right,
to come from taxation,
Right.
which allows the board honestly the flexibility that, should this be approved, if the grant doesn't look like it's been approved or going to get approved, you don't have to buy it.
right.
He has applied for it already, it's too early to know.
Okay.
This allows you the flexibility to buy it whether or not there's a grant.
So you don't have to buy it and then apply for reimbursement.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait
Correct.
until you, or
Right, he applied for it and then you can buy it if it's approved and you want to.
So we don't have to indicate it in all articles that whatever remaining is taxation, we don't have to actually put those words?
No,
Okay.
No, and not on the warrant, but in the voter's guide, we explain that to people,
because
so they
it's,
understand it.
that's
I have
what the
another question
beginning
about that,
means,
but-
is to raise and appropriate the sum of X dollars
Mhm.
really means taxation,
Okay.
unless you're saying that you're gonna offset it with some other,
With CIP or whatever.
Something, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so are folks ready to vote on Article 10?
yes.
All right, so all those in favor of Article 10 as written, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we recommend that, go on the warrant. All right, number 11, town boiler, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to replace the boiler in the town hall, and further to authorize withdrawal of $20,000 from the capital improvement reserve fund established for this purpose. What are folks thinking?
We've talked a lot about it.
Yeah.
and I think we're ready.
All right, so, and we will get to number 13 in a moment, but, all right, so, folks ready to vote?
Mhm.
All those in favor of including it in the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
All right, goes on the warrant. Radios for the Rollinsford Fire Department. To see if the town will raise an appropriate sum of $65,000 to replace aging communications radios for the Rollinsford Fire Department, and to further authorize withdrawal of $10,000 from the capital improvement reserve fund established for this purpose. What do folks think? Any discussion?
Should we put how many that will be, or don't we need to do that?
You don't need to, you can certainly add it. So here's the thing to think about. The more language you add, the more restrictive you get.
So if they
So you're
don't,
trying
for
to be
some reason
clear.
come up with, if it was for 60
If the
radios,
price goes
the price
up.
went up, they can only get 15, then this is kind of, okay, got it.
So that's where I would say the
Some flexibility.
voter's guide helps people
I was
understand what
just
the
gonna
goals
say, I don't
are.
wanna keep passing the buck over to the voters guide, but that will give us our opportunity to
Yep.
say, we're anticipating buying 15, 60,
Yep.
whatever the number
Yep.
was. So, 10. All right, so any other discussion? All right, so all those in favor of heading us under the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, or? Number 13, this is the combined police station town hall facility. I assume you all saw the email from Chief Ducharme asking us to hold off on this for a year?
I did.
Did you get
Was it to us or was it to the committee?
It was to us and to the committee.
Oh, okay.
I believe I find it here. I think it was to both of us. I think it was to the select board and was CC'd to the committee thanking them for their work, but he thinks it needs to hold off for a year. And now I gotta find his email. Robert, where are you? Thought I highlighted it so I wouldn't lose it. Apparently not. Basically, he thinks that we need to have more of a plan as to what's gonna, here it is. Yeah, it was to the select board and to the members of the Space Needs Committee, that the interest figures that he had passed out were semi-annual, so they're actually double what he thought they were. You know, so it's a monkey wrench into everything, and he said maybe it's best that we just postpone for a year so we can review this more thoroughly and find answers to some of the questions that have been raised. So I think that he raises two interesting points. One, I don't think we're clear now on all of the ins and outs of the funding that we thought we were. And but there are questions as to what we're doing with this building we're sitting in at the moment. And we don't have answers to. So I think we should follow his recommendation and hold off for another year, which I know we don't particularly care for, but.
I agree with that for a number of reasons, but mostly, I think we've distributed information to the public that's incorrect.
That too.
That I just don't feel comfortable moving forward with this. I think we need to take a little more time and a little more caution.
So it's my baby first, and then I passed it over to you, Denise, so we sort of had
Oh,
some
we
sort of.
did it together.
Yeah, no, we did
I've been
together,
on
right?
it for 2 years.
No, so we have been working on this for a while, but.
2 years.
2 years.
It
So.
wasn't just thrown together.
No, but well, I was gonna say that, I'm gonna recognize you to speak, of course, but I want to say thank you for the time you put in over the last, 2 years, really, but specifically on your own as a board rep
Mhm.
for the last year. So I know it's sort of bittersweet, but, go ahead, you said how you were saying.
No, if Bob wants to pull it back, I respect his opinion. I just think there's a lot of misconception about how the committee worked and what they did and their task was and how long they've been working on it. So, that's my only point.
Okay, so we will vote then as to whether or not we're going to include Article 13 on the warrant. All those in favor of including Article 13 say aye. All those opposed? No.
No.
All right, so Article 13 will not go on the warrant this year. There's either a collective sigh of relief from half the town and they get the news ready to lynch the other half. So we have not pleased anyone probably. All right. Article 14, closing of trust funds. So we have a number of trust funds that we have found that are have small amounts of money in them that are no longer that aren't current. They've either been replaced by other funds like the there used to be a a trust, well, there is currently a trust fund just for the Sligo Road Culvert, Sligo Road Culvert Reserve Fund. Well, we have a culvert reserve fund now. There used to be a police cruiser reserve fund. We have the capital improvement plan fund, a program fund now that covers all of that. So Caroline has put together a list of, let's see, the cruiser fund, transfer station compactor reserve fund, property reevaluation trust, which is separate. There's a separate fund established for that already. And the, I already said the Sligo Culvert Reserve Fund. And then, I don't know why the town has agency over this, but.
And you know what, we may not, it's listed as the trust fund, but there are also, to be clear, cemetery trusts
Okay.
in our same sheet too, so, you know, I'm recognizing what you're saying and I'm gonna check into
Okay,
that.
so we're gonna strike that one because we don't have an education tuition fund. We're gonna strike that one, that was the schools.
Yeah.
So it will just be the Sligo Culvert, reval fund, compactor fund, transfer station fund, and the police cruiser fund. Is there any discussion on closing those funds? And they'll all be rolled over and transferred to the general fund. How much is in there? What's the total on the?
They range, some of them as much as, I think one of them has maybe like $500 in it, but most of them have like $20 to $40, like
Right.
just interest, basically.
Altogether, it's not even $1,000 probably.
I'm sure it's not.
Oh, you've got a list there. Denise, what do you think? All right, we
Okay.
Miles, you are? All right, so, all those in favor of including Article 14 on the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. And then that one. Article 14 and 15, and we'll do them separately. Article 15 is establish a recreation committee expendable trust fund. I think we just heard the public hearing that it's not necessary this year from the town administrator, but more importantly, just as importantly rather, we heard from the rec committee that they're asking us not to do it this year. They'd like some more time. So, all right, all those in favor of placing Article 15 on the warrant, say aye. Opposed?
No.
No? All right, not recommended. Number 15, the same, it's a slightly nuanced, slightly different, establish a recreation committee expendable trust fund. Same title, but one was revolving fund and one was a straight, the first one was a straight expendable trust fund. This one's a revolving fund. The same thing, they've asked us to hold off, and they're not ready yet. Any other comments, concerns? All right. Those in favor of putting placing Article 15 on the warrant, say aye. Opposed? No? All right, not recommended. I get this phrasing down by the end of the night, maybe we'll see. Slightly different every time. All right, Article 16, Capital Improvement Reserve Fund. See if the town will vote and raise to appropriate $179,400 to be placed in the town capital improvement reserve fund established for this purpose. Any questions, comments? This is the number we've been working on for quite a while now, so
Motion to accept.
nothing has changed. All right, all those in favor of placing Article 16 on the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We're going on. Number 17, Town Reevaluation Capital Reserve Fund. That would be replacing the other one, the
Property
outdated,
valuation.
right, the other trust that was set up years ago. We have competing trusts. To vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $18,750, excuse me, to be placed in the reserve fund for this purpose. Any questions, concerns?
Now, this amount, I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
Okay, this amount is gonna be each year until, what is it, a
For
5
4
year?
years.
For 4
It's 4
years,
years, okay, all right.
And then the 50 year, we
We pay it and
We pay
do
it.
it at the same
Yeah,
time,
okay.
and then, yeah.
start all over again for the next round of review every 5 years.
So what is the name of the fund? I don't know if I see it on this list. Maybe it just wasn't included, I don't know.
I think it was about, when it's property reevaluation trust up top on
In
the
Article
14.
14.
But he's got
That's
the
what
list
you
of
did.
the
Yeah,
trusts.
I'm just
Oh.
curious, like,
Well, I don't
where
think
does
there's
it,
any money
what
in
is
it.
it? No, please.
So if you see it before I see it. Property reevaluation
Trust.
trust,
There it is.
we
And
have
there's
$10.09 in it at the
But-
moment.
So that's when we're planning to.
That's when we're getting rid of, and we're
Right.
keeping the town reevaluation fund,
Oh, okay.
which has
It's right in front of my eyes.
$26.49 in it.
Okay, because we depleted it.
Right, we depleted it, we're
Right,
putting it back
because we
in.
just did it.
I'm good, thank you.
Exactly. Alrighty, so, with those questions answered, are there any other questions? No? Okay, all those in favor of placing Article 17 on the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. Article 18, culvert repair replacement reserve fund. See if the town will vote and appropriate $10,000 to be added to the culvert repair replacement reserve fund established for this purpose. And we will be getting a whopping whatever is in the Sligo culvert reserve fund. Replacing that one.
26 cents.
Is 26 cents in that one? Yeah, that's probably, makes sense that we close that one. Okay.
So I have a question on that one, only because we just found out about a particular incident on Foundry Street.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no money in there currently, correct? We have no money in the culvert fund?
No,
There is
Oh,
like
oh.
$30,000.
There's 30,000 right now.
Oh, okay. What one did we just talk about? Oh, did we
The
talk about
Sligo
that?
Road one
Oh, the
has
Sligo,
26 cents in
gotcha.
it.
Okay, all right. So, that's okay, then we probably can do that. Do you need to have authorization at town meeting or?
We're
to
agents
remove
of
it?
the.
So we can take it
Do
if
it at
we need
will,
to?
yeah.
Okay.
And we set it up that way because we had so many culverts in town where they had issues
Yep,
that we wanted some flexibility.
okay, no, that's good.
When it was set up before, it made sense because it was culverts, the Sligo Road was just the big behemoth
Right,
that, without having to be a bridge, all that. But
Mhm.
it hadn't turned out that way, so.
okay.
Alrighty then. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of including Article 18 on the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Number 19 is the Conservation Land Trust Capital Reserve Fund. See if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Conservation Land Trust Capital Reserve Fund. $10,000 will be transferred from the Land Use Change Tax Fund to fund this appropriation. So there's no impact on taxation, so, which will be said in the voter's guide, but we don't put it in here. Any questions or concerns? We've been doing, this is our sort of yearly.
So this is to buy land that we might want to put in conversation ourselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That's why it was established anyways, yes. Excuse me. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of placing Article 19 on the warrant, say aye. Aye, opposed? All right, Article 19 will go on the warrant. Article 20, land surveys and related expenses. So one goes hand in hand with this one. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to finance land surveys and related expenses that may be incurred in assisting private landowners who donate conservation easement and or to purchase options to buy critical lands that the town may wish to protect for open space or conservation uses. And further to authorize withdrawal of $5,000 from the Conservation Land Trust Capital Reserve Fund, the one above, we just put $10,000 in if there's money from the other, from the Land Use Change Tax Fund, into this fund. So we would take $5,000 out if we are up to that amount. So if this allows us to transfer $5,000 from this other fund into this fund and to withdraw up to $5,000 if someone said, oh, we want to donate 500 acres or whatever, 1,000 acres to the town, or whatever the number is, for conservation, which has happened in the past, or to purchase, which has happened in the past, for the surveying expenses. So this has been on the warrant for quite a while, so.
Is 5,000 enough?
It has been, there hasn't been an issue, so.
Okay.
And it's only if,
Only if that happens.
right, and it's only if there's money transferred, and there is money in the Conservation Land Trust Capital Reserve Fund, the one above it. And there's only money on that if there's, someone pays the land use change tax, so it goes into a separate fund. And so it's not, none of this is from direct taxation.
Right.
moving money from one fund to another in case the town is offered an opportunity to acquire conservation property. So, are there any objections or questions or comments? All right. All those ready to vote? All those in favor of our including Article 20 on the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, opposed? All right. Now, Article 20 will go on the warrant. Article 21. To see if the town will vote and approve the additional sections of Wentworth Street and Pleasant Street as extended by the project constructed by Chinburg Builders known as Scout Landing. So this is the way the DRA requires us to write this, to say we'll accept the roads. It's convoluted, but
It is convoluted.
the voter's guide does a better job of trying to explain to people what that means, so.
I can see about trying to make that better language. I want to bring to your attention, in case you didn't read your
Sorry.
email, okay, so, I spoke with Tom Clark, and his recommendation is to get a letter of credit from the builder for the value of the work left to be done, so
Okay.
that if it's not done, then having a letter of credit allows us agencies over those funds from the bank to complete the work that's required. It's going to cost some amount of money for Jay Stevens to determine what the value of that work is.
Okay.
So here's the thing, so they want it on the warrant anyway. That way it could stay on the warrant, but that you're assuring that the work will get done in the spring, because it really can't happen now.
But it can't say that in the warrant?
No, because there's no maybe. You're either doing it or you're not doing it, and the people won't, no. So, it happens all the time, not in Rollinsford. It's a standard thing. What's not standard, well, according to Tom and his experience in Dover, that Dover does it repeatedly. They would prefer to issue us a check,
Who's they?
Chinburg, for the value of whatever this is, rather than a letter of credit from the bank.
Could it cost him if I have a letter of credit?
Probably.
He does, yeah.
As opposed to the check, though, which, if we
Once
have a
you
really
take it.
late winter, could bring a check past 90 days.
Right.
Oh, because you can't deposit it until it happens. is what
Well,
you're
you
saying.
can't, unless you're using it, right, you don't want to deposit, although, that's the other thing, is we could deposit the funds, keep record of that and work that out with them, that we're actually
Mhm.
depositing the funds and then refunding them.
Mhm.
But we need to work out those details.
Right.
And they're the ones that say that they want it on the warrant?
They want it
It's in Chinburg, is they?
Chinburg would really want it on the warrant. Tom Clark is recommending that you proceed with some kind of financial caveat.
Right.
Mhm.
Mr. Stevens indicated that the road itself is in proper condition to be accepted, is that there was additional drainage work, right? There's some clogged.
Cleaning out.
Cleaning out.
Rip wrap and
We
stuff.
want done before we accept the
Right,
road, for
which
sure.
should be done, but shouldn't be very expensive.
Mhm.
But I think that they need to follow the process that Mr. Clark has outlined.
Letter of
A
credit.
letter of credit from the bank, if not, it just doesn't go on the warrant, and if we wait another year, it's not.
Well, so I think this may be another thing that you are going to determine more finally next week,
That's fine.
according to whatever the response to that is.
So this means that we're not responsible for plowing their roads, because they're not a town-owned road.
We are, should this be approved at
Yeah,
town meeting.
right now,
Is-
today.
Right,
We're not.
but today we're not, no, it's not
No,
our
that's
road
why,
yet.
so
Correct.
if this doesn't go on the warrant article, or it doesn't get approved on the ballot, that means they have to maintain their roads another year.
Correct.
Correct, and that also opens the town up to some questions from the property owner about why it wasn't approved. And that's something that I think we really need to speak to at the deliberative session, because it's not really an option of the town. If the plan is, if the road is built and the development is built according to the plans which were approved by the planning board, we don't really have a right to not approve it. And yet, there may be confusion about that among the voters.
A developer can't come in good faith, design a road, build a road that was designed to our specifications, And then the townspeople just say, no, just kidding, we're not gonna accept your road, and now you're stuck maintaining it, you know, for the rest of your lives. You know, so it's not fair, I mean, it's supposed to be.
Well, and it opens us up to litigation.
Right,
frankly.
right.
But it also has valid issues that haven't been resolved.
Well, it does. So the letter of credit is kind of like bonding, but on a smaller scale, so
Right.
that, but it allows towns agency over those funds for that amount of money to do the work. So, yes, you're approving the road either way if this article passes. However, you will have the money to do the work if they don't do the work.
Seems reasonable.
So there shouldn't really be a loss, in other words.
Right.
What do we think?
Well, I think we should wait until next week to figure out.
All right, you wanna wait till next week, so we'll let Chinburg, okay, so we, I said, I don't think that's me, I think that's you, Beaver.
It is me.
So, Caroline, will you reach out then to the developer and let them know that we'd like them to issue the
Letter of credit.
letter of credit, please?
Okay.
And then, if they're agreeable to that, then we'll be placing it on the warrant.
Okay,
We'll vote on it next week. Next week is the deadline, right, for us to?
yes.
Okay, so we're gonna hold on this one, just like we held on Article, I gotta make a note of it, Article, thank you, 7. All right, moving right along, Article 22, to see if the town will vote to discontinue the position of a tree warden, fence viewer, surveyor of wood and lumber, and Parks and Recreation.
I will change that language the way it's written once I find out what that title
Parks
is.
and Recreation,
Yeah.
official title is. This was, a request of the town clerk.
And you can break them up if you want, but
So, what happens if it fails?
then you're gonna do it again next year.
But you're not gonna appoint anybody.
You can't appoint them. Well,
Well, that's not true.
yeah,
If no one if no one signs up for
well, but you will have
those-
write-ins
those
though.
offices, right? Or if no one receives the required number of write-ins, then the select board may have to appoint people.
Well, does somebody who gets 10 white write-ins when everybody else got fewer, does that person not win the
They auto-
position?
They automatically get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, I don't remember what the minimum number is, maybe 5, something like that. It's not many. I
Is
could
there
be
a
10.
minimum number?
Is there a minimum?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought it was.
All right, so I'm
the
gonna
one
check
with the
with Kate
most.
so we know that better.
That might only be for partisan elections, though, actually.
So I'm not sure, in other words, that it really can be defeated.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm sorry, of course it can be defeated, I just mean, what I mean to say is, those positions and their vacancies, I can't imagine that they wouldn't be filled by way of write-ins, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, there'll be write-ins. So,
There will
yeah,
be.
yeah,
They're all counted
yeah.
write-ins for these things.
Mhm.
Yes. So you can see I have that question there. You can break them into separate articles if you prefer not to have them on the ballot together that way.
I don't think there's that much of a difference. I mean, I'm not sure someone's going to know the difference between tree warden and fence viewer. Or want to keep one and not keep the other.
You know what I'm concerned about is Parks and Recs. I want it to not misread that it's eliminating the Parks and Recreation Committee, that's all, you know what I mean? So-
That's,
I'm not in favor of the article at all, so. I'm still not happy with the fact that we don't have town meeting anymore. Certainly not gonna vote to kill the last few traditions that we have associated with town meeting. But if you two wanna do it, that's fine. You can place it on the warrant.
My only concern, and it's selfish, is that this creates a vote counting nightmare.
Mhm. for some people who may not even want it.
Right, yeah.
That's the
That's
problem
true.
with the write-ins. Are we the only ones that have these positions in the whole state? I mean, how else does
I'm sure
everyone?
we're not.
Can we change them to appointed positions?
Yeah.
I'll find out about that, maybe.
Because that would be
Maybe just put.
preferable.
We could
maybe
change
not.
that warrant article to see if the town will vote to.
Allow the select
allow
board
the
to
select board
appoint
to
them.
appoint positions of tree warden.
I would rather do that.
I would absolutely rather do that.
I
Then that
would
gives us an
absolutely
option.
rather do that, and then the positions will be filled by us.
And then you can make sure people want it before you
Right.
do that.
Well, we can, after the fact, we can put it out there that we have these positions, and it seems to be always the same people who get them. You know.
I will call about that.
We'll hold off then until
Okay.
next Monday till we find out whether or not we can make that change or not.
Mhm.
You can just spend the week logging each other. Mention whether or not we're gonna do away with the tree warden.
So note that your article numbers are gonna change because you've deleted
Mhm.
All right.
two.
3.
Recreation
Just
facility.
3.
Three for that.
Just 3. That we're not.
Oh, right, yeah, same number, yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Article 23, to the authority to sell surplus equipment and vehicles. This is, let's see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to sell, which is the highest bidder, surplus equipment and vehicles owned by the town. It's on every year, so.
Mhm.
Is there any other, any discussion of it? All those in favor, including Article 23 on the warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The only other warrant left is.
I can't,
Well, you can't.
yeah, I can't, that's
can't do
there, but I
that.
don't think we can do that because you can't do that by ballot.
It's on the school one every year.
Really?
Conduct any other businesses?
So is that just part of the deliberative session and it just doesn't end up on the ballot?
Right.
There's not a free-form text box on the ballot.
Please, yeah, we welcome your comments.
No, don't do that.
So,
Good
Article
God.
Article 24 will go on
Okay, I'll believe
it
it.
doesn't have a recommendation by the select board, it's just it goes on. All right, so the only thing we have left then is we're gonna figure out about these 4 positions. The letter of credit, was that what it was?
Yes.
From, on the roads and the operating budget, so we get the bottom number from the budget committee after Wednesday. After that, the warrants are set.
Okay.
All right, let's see, on the agenda. I've lost my agenda.
I don't know that I put it on the agenda, but I need you all to make a determination about the draft of the voter guide.
We have a paper copy of it.
I did not because I saw Denise do that, but I'm gonna,
I've read it. There was one thing I wanted to change.
let me
Yeah.
print off a couple.
Thank you.
She does that.
Back in just a moment. All right. So somebody comes back in then. And Caroline.
Somebody else.
I promise you I'm not texting you. I'm texting my wife all the time. I go home.
No, shut me off. Is that you?
Phone doesn't make that sound. It must be Caroline.
I don't know.
Is that shut me off? I thought it was me.
Maybe it's her phone. Maybe someone's sending her a message.
It's not me, it must be Caroline.
Blamed you for nothing, sorry.
No, it probably was me though. Mine doesn't think.
I
It's
know.
cold.
Wait
It
till we
was
get to the
pretty
party.
warm when we get in here.
Only because it was so flipping cold outdoors.
Yeah,
It felt warm in here.
I tell you, my little dogs did not, I took them out last night, they refused to do anything. I had taken them out 4 times before they finally did it. This morning, it took them like 30 seconds, they were done, they were ready to go back in. I was too.
Mine is such a pansy, she won't go out in the snow. Harry's truck died, I had to go.
Oh, no.
A new battery.
Oh, God.
But really.
Yeah. One thing's another, isn't it?
This is pretty cold though. So do we have to make sure that we're all in agreement that this is what we're bringing forward for Wednesday night, right?
What's that?
This is the operating budget of town. I just have to make sure that we
There
give
weren't
it a
any
blast.
changes except for the,
But did they change the fix on here? So then that's what we might need to know that we bring forward. Because I don't want it to be conflict with them.
okay, so the only thing that I had on, I thought looked great, the only thing that I wanted to change was on the radios for the fire department. The current radios were received with a 9/11 grant and are no longer serviceable. I think it should say the current radios were received via a grant, a post 9/11/2001 grant.
Was it a Homeland Security grant?
Yeah, but I want folks to understand, it wasn't like it's a grant that happened last year associated with 9/11/2001, but it actually was from that year. So whether it was the end of 2001, or probably it's actually by 2002 was when the
Right.
grant was probably awarded, but folks need to understand that it's not like these are new radios,
Right.
they're.
I can ask Mark for a year too.
Well, I mean, I just think it just has to be a little clearer here why we're saying a 9/11 grant. It just has to say, a post 9/11/2001 grant. And find out, we could find out exactly
If we can say they're 14 plus years or 15 plus
whatever
years.
How many years old? Yeah, absolutely.
the folks need to understand that it's not like we're saying they're 3 years old, we want to replace them all. I mean, it's,
Yep.
they're at least 15 years old, so, and it could be 16 years old or 17. Someone's beeping and it's not me.
It's just not me.
It's not Denise, her phone is off,
And it's
so.
not me, because I'm over here, it's coming from like over there.
It's coming from behind us.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
I
I'm just, that area,
The Russians are bugging.
I don't, my phone doesn't make that noise.
Okay, so,
Mine does, but I just turned it up.
all right, so if we can just change that, I think everything
Yes.
else, did you find a typo somewhere?
I did, under the police
Town.
cruiser lease,
Yes.
has left the
Yep.
town will more high it should be with.
With,
More
yes.
high
Yep.
mileage cruisers, with, instead of will, it should be with.
Yeah. All right, there was
Right
two
there.
that I was on, you're right.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of places, hold on, let me find the word. Where, like, the word, hold on.
I had one of the ones too, but.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So for the zoning, the 3 zoning amendments, the other 2 are fine, but the accessory dwelling units, I think we need to be clear that the change that the zoning, that the planning board is recommending is so that the Rollinsford zoning ordinance can be in compliance with state statute.
Well, the first sentence, you don't think the first sentence says that?
Yes, it's in the, it's not, maybe it was in the back of the warrant, I'm confusing them then.
It might,
Unless they got changed, the email, no, I thought it was in the voter guide, the email that I saw, maybe, was this changed at all?
it could have been.
I may have seen it might have been an earlier draft, so. No, you're right, it does say that now, so I'm good, never mind, strike
It
it.
may have been a previous version.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good with it, Miles has,
I can't find where it is now. If I do, I'll email you. It was just one of those words where there are two words that mean kind of the same thing, but it's the wrong word. It's not that big of a deal.
Oh, like a homonym or something?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, please email me.
It's stare,
Find that.
stare.
My question is,
Right.
how do people get this?
it's mailed.
Mailed, direct mailing to all the
It's gonna be-
residents.
How?
5 pages.
Like in an envelope?
Well, no.
Because this is
So,
3 page, 4
so
page
the way
long.
this happened last year, what I think we're gonna try to do is get an 11 by 17 paper.
Mhm.
See, which is 4 of these essentially. So we gotta do layout and whatever to get 2 and 2, and it'll be like folded in half and then tri-folded and mailed.
And very small to read.
It possibly, yes. Salme works with the printer to get layout to happen. Yes,
We
print.
strive to have it bigger, but we've got a lot more to
Mm,
talk about. We've got
okay.
all the different,
Well, you got 5 pages.
Yes.
the plus more articles,
So, to be clear, language may change because of what you're saying. You know, we may have to get it concise, more
Right,
concise
just words
for
like
space.
A little
Mhm.
bit.
Mm.
so. But we need to approve, at least in concept, what's written here, so we can get it, make sure it gets out, 'cause it has to get out by the end of the week, right? So it'll arrive in people's mailboxes.
So
before
it
the
can't be
deliberative session.
finalized until after the budget committee meeting.
Right.
Because whatever happens there is going to reflect what we say here.
Mhm.
So it needs to be to the printer Thursday morning.
So if you can't find that with one
Okay.
spot,
You have a little bit of time.
let her know, and if there's any other content in here that you think needs to change, authorize, Salme and Caroline to work on the layout and get this out, so we get out by the end of the week. Are folks okay with that? All right. Denise, you okay with that? All right. And we will do that. Anything else? We didn't have welfare tonight, did we?
No,
Okay.
we were going to.
It didn't happen? Okay,
No.
not on here. Anything else, folks?
Well, do we need to take a stand on this?
Oh, yes.
Or do we
But
just assume that copies they have are correct?
So there are no published copies yet. I'm giving this to you as the current revised version.
Okay.
I would like for you to look it over. This is from Suzanne as a reflection after she has done what she's done with the portal and the error that she caught. So, you know, every time I think we're good, we're not, because we're rushing through this. But, you know, so anybody who wants to put eyes on it, I welcome that. But
the bottom line.
the bottom line matches the portal, which is adding it separately outside of this spreadsheet that we've had
$2,402,076,
Oh, is that what it says?
which is what I thought I just saw on the warrant, huh? Number. Yep, and that's what we have on the warrant.
So I will email this to you and the
Okay.
warrants, you can
And
send
the-
those to the
okay.
budget committee.
Okay.
Anything else? From the board? For the board, community input? Yes, sir.
Celia Leopold, Washington Street. You put a bunch of things on the end of the article but did not recommend them. Are they gonna be recommended or not on the warrant? Like the truck and stuff, does that get recommended by you guys or just put on the warrant?
If we put it on the warrant, we recommend it.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you put something on the warrant that you were not recommending.
No, everything we placed on the warrant, we were recommending. There will be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, actually, it won't be easier, because I saw how many there are total. There will be 21 warrant articles out of a possible 24. Any other committee input? Seeing none, we're adjourned at 6:26 until next week. The select board is going over to the fire station at 7 to have coffee with the firefighters. That so not all of us could make it to the funeral for Kevin. We wanted to have a check conversation with the firefighters. buy a box of coffee. So they're expecting us at 7:30. Do you wanna, I was gonna say, do you wanna, I told Mark that you would email or text David. I was hoping David was there.
We should do.
So, just to warn them that, I don't know if we were running late, I didn't know if it might take longer tonight, so.
All right, let me see if I can get us,
If he wants us to come over earlier, I think that would be.
I would love to go earlier.
Yeah.
Well, let me see.
We did that, Rich. At 6:26, we adjourned by consensus. All right.
Mhm.
Not tonight.
Do you, need some money for coffee?
I'm just giving you
Yeah, a box of coffee.
All right.
I know those are cheap.
Thank you. You're welcome.
tomorrow morning.
Actually, I think they already have coffee. They usually have coffee at the meeting. They
Well,
probably
no.
don't really show up with a box of coffee, do they? They already have it?
I don't know, I don't know if they make it
Oh.
there, I don't know.
You might ask them that then.
If they want coffee.
Well, ask, are you calling David?
Yeah.
You ask them if they have coffee or I'll buy it. They put it on the calendar, or no?
That's there. And I don't know when that one goes up, but ours goes up the next day.
Drained from doing
Should we have separate cameras?
We,
Captain Knowles? That sounds really weird.
We have separate cameras.
How are
He
you?
has his and I have this one.
Hey, is there any way that we can come over at 7:30?
Good weekend?
Our meeting is over.
Here,
Did you survive?
He puts it on.
yes, I think we've all
Snow
come out of it,
popcorn.
we're just frozen popsicles now.
And when he comes to your meetings, he uses his camera,
Okay, so I thought the meeting was at
not mine.
6.
No,
Yeah, so that's why I came by.
sorry.
No,
All
it's my
right, do you
fault.
need catch-up information about anything? All right, what can we do for
So
you?
police station, that's
Okay,
what I'm
so,
focusing
and
on.
also.
Is not on the warrant.
coffee, But do you guys have
What was
coffee
the
or
vote?
brewing or what?
The vote was unanimous
Does anybody drink it
Oh.
there?
per the recommendation of the fire, the police chief. And,
Okay, so you want to
yeah,
send
there
some?
was just some,
Okay,
changes
all
in
right.
Can I put you on record here?
Okay.
I just have to think about what I'm gonna say if you're gonna say that.
No, I mean, it's
Oh,
up to
okay.
you.
Would you prefer to, you have the entire select
Yeah,
board
you
here
got,
too.
okay, so, please recap the entire meeting for me. A personal recap. No, what, was there, was there a recommendation by the police chief to you guys?
Yeah, the police chief asked us, thought it would be best if we waited another year.
Oh, really?
To address some of the questions that have come up over the past few weeks, and to address some discrepancies in
We can
the
come
amount
anytime?
of
Funding payments.
funding,
Interest
the
We can
interest
come anytime?
amounts.
Yeah, we can come
funded.
anytime. We're all done
There was,
here.
I think it was, there were semi-annual interest payments, and the way he understood it was they were annual, and so it wasn't gonna double. It was something, went from like 150 to 300,000.
Okay, very good, we'll see you in a
No,
bit.
not 300.
Thank you.
What was the-
It was I think like 69 to 130.
Yeah, so it's,
Numbers.
so the information we distributed to folks wasn't accurate, so there's also that to consider that we were distributing, not intentionally.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, if folks that told us one way or another they were for or against it.
Yeah.
You didn't give them